Yes, welcome to this session, simplified session on Africa. There are many discussions going on why Africa is poor. I want to look at the history of Africa, why the name Africa, who came about these names, and why is Africa poor. If you look at the history or the origin of Africa, there are many scholars who may have not been there, but they did a research. Some of them, they tried to explain the name Africa as the land of the Berber tribe, or the land of Afri, from the Latin Roman origin. From the Greek origin, they described the word Africa as a land without cold, not gold but cold, the land free from cold. When you look at the Phoenician origin, they describe Africa as a colony or a dusty land. When you look at the African indigenous origin, they describe Africa as a place of sunshine, place where they had a lot of caves, where there's the cave dwellers, or a place where there are dark-skinned people. If you say dark-skinned people, I don't know if the Tunisian, Egyptian, Moroccans, or also part of, or Algerians are also part of the dark skin. We will understand why it says so. Maybe those years we are not there, but basically these are just about a mindset. There's something that I've been asking myself, very simple. Why is Africa poor? Why do we take ourselves as being poor? Africa transformation from poverty to prosperity historically has been there through what we call the scramble for Africa. There are people who are fighting for our independence. You look at the history, you understand why there was scramble for Africa, why it happened. And in these 5 categories, it will highlight you to give you a clue of why there was a scramble of Africa, so that when we come to explain some of the comprehensive analysis we have done, the blueprint on the framework that was used, you will come to understand that Africa is not poor, but it was made to be poor. Yes, if you look at first factor is about economic motive. They came to Africa, and I don't blame them, because even the Bible says, you mankind, God gave mankind the first commandment: go you in the world, be fruitful, multiply, subdue, and conquer the world. There are various factors that you need for you to subdue and conquer the world. If you look at the economies of China, if you look at the economies of America, if you look at the economies of Russia, economies of Germany, France, all these countries I've mentioned, and many more of them, always they are scrambling to transform their economy, and their transformation is about raw materials. Yes, some of them may not have all raw materials they deserve, but they came to Africa. Yes, China could have not been part of the colonies for Africa during those period. That's why the economies was so down. But when you come to understand other countries, if you underline their power, you'll come to realize the reason why they came to Africa. They knew Africa as a land of sunshine, as a land of mine, as a land of gold. They came to mine minerals. These were the raw materials for their economic development: gold, diamond, copper, ivory, rubber, palm oil, cotton, and whatever. All these were items they were mining from Africa, taking it to their countries. They demarcated Africa in terms of the economic zone, not the boundaries. Those are just boundaries they put for economic zone. You see the British colony, the French colony, the Dutch colony, maybe the German colony, whichever colonies they put, it was about not to kill Africans. But because Africans do not understand how to merge with these people, that's why they hate to use force and they hate to call us as monkeys. This is a history. Biblically, for you to grow, you have to multiply. For you to conquer, you have to be stable. And those are some of the things that these countries came into to mine from Africa to take to their countries. And even cheap labor. Africans were cheap labor because they were used in their countries for economic development. If you look at example number 2 on political motive, the scramble of Africa was on political motive. These countries wanted to increase their global power. And whoever had more colonies became more powerful. And even today you will see now it has shifted now to more of economic. The China now and how being so powerful in terms of economy, they are now becoming powerful country as compared now to Russia or the US. So it has now transformed from political power even to economic power. If you look at these other countries, they also wanted to control the Suez Canal, the sea routes where they were doing their business, maybe importation or shipping of goods. Those were the military bases. Even today, it is still there. You will find the American countries or American military are still in those regions. In even the Asians, those regions where like the Red Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, along those canals, always they have their military bases because those are the point where they transport their goods. So it was a strategic motivation for them to create those boundaries. Why was Ethiopia not colonized? Some of the countries which are so close to the port, they were easier to be colonized because they were now constructing their railway line to move from the coastal region or port region to inland where they could now ship their goods to those regions. Now you will understand why Africa was made poor. Another reason is about the Berlin Conference. In the year 1884 to 1885, there was a Berlin Conference organized by what called the Otto von Bismarck of Germany. They were dividing Africa in terms of the economic zone, and their division did not even involve any African because it was based on the effective occupation, the military presence, the treaties they forced, so that every nation were taking the economic zone. That's why you'll hear there's a British colony, there's a French colony, and more of the French colony was in West Africans as compared to East Africans. And the South Africans, you may see southern region of Africa, the Dutch was more than West African regions. French were more. East African regions, the British were more. So this Berlin Conference was now to demarcate Africa in terms of the economic zone because they want to effectively create occupation for their people. They want effectively to create military presence and even sign treaties that could not even engage or involve Africans. The last was about the religious and cultural motives. Yes, you will hear missionary schools, which are so many in our regions. Yes, Africans had their own religion, but these missionaries also came while spreading their Christianity. At the same time, they were taking land for their cultivations. So these were just this design motive to enslave African to remain where they are. But for me, I would not say that they were bad. Yes, even me, if I'm looking for something, I have to go extra mile to look for something in the sense that it will benefit me. So they were looking for something to benefit their life. Yes. Let's look at why is Africa poor? If we look at Africa as a continent, yes, a land of more sunshine, a land of minerals, a land of warm weather, is a continent which is extremely rich in resources, but people are still living in abject poverty. People are still unemployed. there is weak infrastructure and there is slow development. Africa is not poor because God had cast it to be poor. No, Africa is poor because it lacks systems, it lacks industrial power, it lacks ethical leadership and a transformed mindset. If you happen to look at the history, you will come to realize that yet us scrambling, fighting to gain independence, but still we are not yet independent. You will understand why we are always fighting on the road. People are going on demonstrations, explaining to the government why they want it to be so. These leaders who are given the mandate to rule Africa, maybe after these people went, they could not achieve what Africans needed. Like, look at the example, if maybe those missionaries left those land to Africans, who were the beneficiaries? You will come to understand, yes, indeed, if Africa is independent, we were still struggling to gain political independence. We were still struggling to gain economic independence. We were still struggling to ensure that there is equity and equality in our sense. Like in European countries, all of them is about equality, freedom. They always fight for equality. But African, once they were given this mandate, almost all countries got independence by those years, like 1960 to 1994. But still, systems have not changed. And I cannot say that we are independent. We are not independent, because the system we put in place have not changed Africa as what we wanted. So this paradox is about Africa standing on its own. Africa has a lot of things like minerals, energy resources are like oil and natural gas are there, water and agriculture is there. If you look at the other people, global perspective, they look at Africa as a poor. Yet Africa has a lot. It's only that out of these items that make a continent to be a first world country or a first world continent, the leadership we are having are not solving the problems Africa requires. The causes of this all is about the historical colonial foundation. The legacy of the colonialism, it continues to shape Africa's economic even today, even the political arena. Historical foundation is the cause of all these problems. We are still struggling to gain independence, yet we claim we already gained independence. Why will people why will leaders sit on this throne forever? Like you see in Uganda for so many, over 24 years. It happened also in Kenya for over 24 years. You see in Tanzania, it is happening, killing people left and right. Does it help? Who is the enemy? The enemy of Africa, I would say, was not the European countries. The enemy of Africa is African themselves. If indeed they had fought for independence, they realized that they wanted to achieve this. But when these people are given the mandate to do so, they coined the game to suit their own interest. And we look at the historical factors on railway and ports development. They were building it for the main reason of exporting minerals, connecting African market, not just for African, but connecting African market to ensure they're able to transport their minerals. Yes, it was an opportunity now the African to wake up, because now they are connecting railways. But if we are left this railway, how has it helped us? If you look at these borders, these were just colonial artificial boundaries that were divided in terms of economic zones to create internal conflicts for African. That's why we don't love each other. We say these are Somali, these are Ethiopian, these are Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya. All of these were just one culture, one tribe. But because of division or conflicts, these boundaries were the one who created these conflicts. And when you move to these nations, European nations, you will find that yes, there are borders, But these people are free, they are allowed to move across their borders. Yet African, if you go to Tanzania, they even on the border, they will not take you lightly. They treat you like a foreigner. That's the internal conflicts they created in Africans. Colonialism is still there. We are still being exploited through unfair trade deals. Like you see these loans, they are giving us loans, conditional loans. You never know, because those people who are going to sign loans, you never know what kinds of loans they are giving us. Maybe somebody signing, you'll take port, you take this land, you take this, but we don't know. So we are still under neo-colonialism. The root cause of all this is the leadership and governance weakness. Yet they gave us freedom. They say that now we have given you independence. You are now independent country. But if you move across African continent, in every region you will find a military base of these countries. A British base, a French base, even Russian base, German base, American base. All of them are here in Africa. Not because they want to protect us, but they are mining resources in Africa. So are we independent? No, we are not independent. But I cannot say that we are going to fight for independence. You cannot fight for independence. The problem is the system we had put in place. It's us who are having the poor system. It's us who are having the problem. We are so corrupt. If we are given a small thing to manage, we cannot manage it well. We lack vision. A good leader creates a vision that they will realize after this period. These European countries, because of independence, some of them maybe when they were fighting during World War I and World War II, you will happen to realize the older generation died and the new generation came in place. They developed now their system for economic transformation. That's why you heard of industrial revolution. Industrial revolution. Why did it happen only in European countries, not in Africa? Industrial revolution. Were we not affected as African? Yes. It was our poor governance system. They knew African they love money. If you give an African money, even they can sell their land. They can sell their birthright. That's the problem. We need to create strong system, governance system that is people oriented, not individual oriented. We need to create political system which are stable enough to ensure that the society is transformed, not just because I belong on this political party or I belong in this. No, this is an illusion. Ask yourself, what qualities do we need in our leaders to transform African? If you want to transform African, how many years do we need, or what qualities do we need in our leaders? Ask yourself those questions. You will come to understand the problem is me and you. Also, another factor we are looking at why Africa is poor. We have looked at the historical foundations. This is why it made Africa to be poor. Number two, we have looked at the leadership and governance. This is what made Africa to be poor. Another root cause is on economic model. Africa is poor because we are exporting all our raw material cheaply to these countries. Then we import those products after they have finished producing them or refined them. They sell us at very expensive cost or high cost. This is why it makes us poor. A country that produces and sells their exports, a country that produces and sells their surplus, they become rich because we gain revenue. But we are depending on this African continent because we are giving them money, and that's way of giving them revenues. We become poor. The China country, if you look at the China country, history of the China country, yes, their leadership is a communism, not like the capitalism from the other countries, but they developed the education system such a way that every community or every individual is able to master the art of doing something. Through the Japanese Kaizen law, they are able to do something. Skills development, skills empowerment, youth empowerment. And that's why they developed a good infrastructure system. They developed a good energy systems that are helping the country to improve their manufacturing. And whatever they are producing surplus, they are selling to African market. This is the economic model that is making Africa to be poor. Another root cause of why Africa is poor is about education and religion. Education and religion. They gave us books to study theory, but they never told us how to fish. If somebody gives you fish, but he has not shown you how to fish, you will remain a beggar forever for your life. So the education system that we are given, it was only to teach us to be job seekers, but not to be job creators. It was emphasizing on memorization. That's why somebody will memorize, will grasp everything in his mind, so that when they're telling some, maybe they're doing an assessment, they give it out as how they had grasped. So you come to realize the aspect of innovation, the aspect of critical thinking is not there. Because the curriculum that was developed for African was based on memorization, was based on job seekers, not job creators, was based on paper qualification other than real skills and competency. And we neglected the aspect of TVET. We neglected the aspect of engineering. Remember, an engineer is a problem solver. We solve problems by developing systems or products or goods that are going to help the society or the community to make something or to develop something or to use something for their own benefit. But because we neglected developing TVET systems, we neglected to develop engineering, foundation, research and development and entrepreneurship, this is why Africa was made to be poor. We come another aspect on religion. Actually, this is the powerhouse of Africa. They know Africa likes to pray. Every corner you will find a church. Below there is a bar, above or there's a restaurant, there's a place where people take their beer. Above on that floor there is a church. 100 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters, even 1 kilometer, you will find a church. You'll never find a school, but you'll find a church. You'll never find a company, but you'll find a church. Why? Because they made Africa to believe that for them to become rich, they have to pray to God. But God said in the book of Genesis, you mankind, go you in the world, be fruitful, multiply, subdue, and conquer the world. How can you multiply if you are praying? And God says the time of manners and queries has elapsed. So where are we getting manners and queries if 24/7 you're in the church praying? There's no one who says don't pray. But how will you conquer the world? As the Bible says. How will you subdue the world? As the Bible says. If you are not being productive. Don't you mean that these people are not prayerful? Do they have a religion? Africa is the most powerful, prayerful continent in the world. Yet high corruption and unemployment is the song of every day. Religion always focuses on miracles, personal breakthrough, rather than national transformation. People want to be blessed. God, let me pray, God will bless me. Let me go to church, God will bless me. No one has told you don't go to church. No one has not told you to pray. But you see how we have disobeyed God's command. Go you in the world, be fruitful, multiply and subdue. How do you multiply something? Those are the miracles God wanted us to have. We don't have to pray God to give us. Even when Abraham wanted the son, he had to pray, but he was working towards that prayer request, and God did miracles for him. And he said, I will bless your descendant. But why is Africa so deceived to be prayerful, but deep in their heart, actually Christians are the most dangerous people. They will sing good songs, they will praise you, but when you leave them after some minutes, they are the very biggest gossipers. Why will you build a church, a very powerful church, a very good building, but people are living in abject poverty? Somebody doesn't have even a house, but you want them to bring that money to you, to a church. Do you ask where they get money? From the Bible, multiply, conquer the world, subdue. That's why these countries which came to scramble for Africa, they had something in their mindset that for them to be powerful, they had to develop powerful education system, they had to develop powerful health system, they had to develop powerful political system, and they had to develop powerful infrastructure. And other countries, if you are corrupt, they will jail you or they will even kill you. Lack of emphasis on the character, discipline, responsibility, and ethical governance is what is killing Africa. And because it was made to be. So, who is our change maker? Another root cause is on our youth involvement or inclusivity. There is a youth crisis in Africa as compared to other continents. Africa has over 70% of its population are the youth below 35 years. But there is massive unemployment and underemployment. Do we blame these people? It is the role of the government to create a conducive environment for these people to do the business. If the education system is weak, if these people have papers but they don't know how to make something, if there's no research and innovation, we will always be dwelling on importation. Youth crisis is very critical. Inadequate funding for innovation and entrepreneurship. Somebody wants to get money to eat. Like, look at the example, like these funds they are giving, they call it Nyota. If you are giving these funds to these youths, are you sure they're going to make something out of that funds? Or they're going to eat it? If, for example, I'm going hungry, I don't have anything to use in my house, and then you give me 50k, you say, yeah, this will help you to do business. Are you sure I'm going to do business with that money? This is inadequate and poor system of funding. You bring in a lot of loan systems. These people depend on loan systems. Where are they going to get money to repay the loans? Fuliza, Tala, with what, all this. Where are they going to get money? Few industries are being absorbed in the market. We need to create industries. We need we don't need to migrate our youth to other countries. We are brainwashing them to believe that those European countries, they have the best job in the world. Yet Africa has the best resources. Why don't we sit together, develop a system, develop policies, develop ways of creating employment for Africa? We are creating frustration and hopelessness among the continent's greatest asset. Infrastructure challenge, energy deficit, and an unreliable power supply. We have a lot of waterfalls. We can create hydro energy. We have a lot of sunshine, northeastern, where we can harness this power by creating a lot of sun harnessing regions, where it can supply energy to those regions without depending on electricity or on hydro energy. We need to improve our road network. Like in the CBD, there should be a lot of road network connectivity in everywhere. Transportation using BRT systems, using electric vehicles, using SGR systems to connect all the major cities, major towns. People can move from one place to another. We don't need to build houses for these people to live in. We will bring systems that can create employment for them. Once they have money, they'll build houses. People are living on the roads because they don't have money. If you have money, would you go and stay on the roads? No. Insufficient ports and logistic network is what is causing African. Limited ICT infrastructure and internet access. People are misusing internet. If somebody wants to go on TikTok, track. Instead of using internet to do research, instead of using these platforms to do marketing, if you use TikTok to do your marketing of your products, you get traffic towards your business. Inadequate water and sanitation systems, but yet Africa has reach of this. High cost of doing business. Somebody doesn't know how to file returns. When you feel you fail to file returns, KRS on your neck. But they have not taught you how to file returns. they need to create empowerment center, training center in every region, in every county. Their mandate is to train people to understand, develop a good KRA system that will capture funds without going again to file returns. If you know I need to file returns and you know my money, why should I file again? But you know my money. You already know how much I owe you. So we have a poor system. Why don't you bring in a system like maybe a supermarket system where every transaction, if this is the tax that is there, supposed to be there, if it is taxable, they take their tax, you remove the amount, just like transaction in Safaricom, in M-Pesa, they deduct their money, you remain yours. Then there's no day you need to do filing. As long as they have automatic system that is friendly, reliable, transparent, and accountable. This is the root cause of Africans' poor or poverty. Another root cause of why Africa is poor is on tribalism and poverty mindset. Jesus said you have to change your mindset. For you to believe that God is there, for you to believe that Jesus is there, for you to believe in miracles, for you to become powerful as a Christian, doing what God wants you to do, you have to change your mindset. There's a reason why Jesus gave 5 talents to 5 people. And some of them who brought back whatever Jesus had given them, they were denied. And Jesus had to give somebody who had multiplied that talent. So it is your mindset that you will need to change. These people brought challenge in our African continent. And not just a challenge, they brought us a positive mindset for us to rethink about the future of Africa. We need to reduce tribalism. We need to reduce nepotism. It is eroding our public trust. It is creating division, preventing our national unity and shared prosperity. It is manipulating our political stability for the ethnic gain. A country divided against itself cannot stand or prosper. And this is the challenge we are facing as a nation. Tribalism, nepotism, poverty. We believe that an MP, when they come to campaign, they have to give us money. If they give us money, they have to return that money when they are given the opportunity. These people are looking for employment, just the way you look for employment. If you gain employment, you have to pay salary every month, and that is their money. Through all those deals, they will steal their money. Poverty mindset, the mental colonialism, the mental colonization that was inhibited or incurred to African, it is still limiting African to expand their mission in terms of innovation. It is preventing African to seek job creation over salaries. People are moving to other countries, they pay well, but if these our leaders can able to create conducive environment for these people here, they can create employment. We don't need 10 years, 50 years for Africa to develop. We need only 15 years. And every year we do something tangible. We can bring these Chinese companies, African companies, we combine them to do in infrastructure development. Within 1 year, we have built state-of-the-art hospital centers, we have built state-of-the-art skill development centers, infrastructure, BRT systems, SGR systems. We are able to do it within 15 years. But because we are given a mandate that for it to be done, we have to re-elect them again to come back to office to do what they want to do. I'm not blaming anyone, but I'm blaming us. People from Africa. Don't blame the European countries. Don't blame anyone. It is your mindset. Relying on miracles rather than effort and planning. Relying on short-term thinking and waiting for the donors. Relying on fear of innovation and risking taking chance of making something is what is the decolonizing Africa mentality to reduce their prosperity in terms of development. Mindset. Finally, there are various pillars African can change. First pillar that African nation we need to change is on governance, the rule of law, and anti-corruption. This is the first pillar Africa need to this is the foundation of everything. Without good governance, all other pillars will fail. We need to fully digitize our government production systems, our e-tax systems, our e-land systems, our e-permit systems, with a systems which is reliable. Not just systems, a system which is reliable, accountable, transparent. We need to publish all government contracts online. When you go to China to negotiate for a loan, we need to see what you negotiated for against, because it is our generation that is going to pay it. We need to strengthen our judicial system to be independent, capacity build them to be independent. We need to ensure there is a mandatory public sector performance contracts. Not just performance appraisal. Appraising somebody because they know somebody else, because of favorism. Appraise somebody on performance. Even if I don't go with your what you want, but I'm doing what's supposed to be done, you have to appraise somebody. We need to have a comprehensive whistleblower protection laws. If somebody is corrupt, jail them, freeze their account, take their money, take it to innovation hub, take it for development. We need to develop a merit-based civil service appointments, not based on nepotism, not based on tribalism, or not based on political gain. And this, we can digitize these systems either within short period of time, 3 to 15 years, and we're able to achieve these systems. We can achieve it. As I said, the first pillar for Africa to develop is about governance. That's why even the Bible, Moses had not to see the promised land. But at the same time, these people who were causing problem to Moses, they had to meander 40 years around the jungle before they see the promised land, which they could have seen it within 4 days, to understand how God works. So that these people will become old, they die, then a new generation comes in. Also, it happened during the World War I and World War II. I know the majority of people who died were the old generations, and they came into a new generation and develop a system that is reliable, transparent, and accountable. And this is now what is working in their countries. I will not say that they are not corrupt. Corruption may be there, but it's minimal. Not like African. We steal everything. We leave nothing for development. Second pillar, industrial revolution and manufacturing for the value addition. Look at industrial revolution after World War I and World War II. Why were not there African? Did we say there's industrial revolution in Africa? Was it there? This is second pillar for Africa to change. Industrial manufacturing and value addition. Economic engine is on industrialization, manufacturing, energy, value addition. Moving from raw material exports to finished products. Why do we need to export our tea? Why do we need to export our crude oil instead of building a refinery in Mombasa? Why do we need to export our raw materials for them to refine in those countries? Why don't we build our refineries here in Africa to create employment so that we export finished products? Why don't we build industrial parks in every county with reliable power and water supply? Why don't we convert our raw materials into finished products? Why don't we create African Industrial Corporation to coordinate production? Why don't we localize our content laws? Why do we not create specialization in the industries? You go to college to study, somebody wants to study law, education, whatever. You find somebody has 15 degrees, 20 degrees, 2 masters, 5 PhDs. But what is your value? How are you adding those values with those degrees? We need to automate African. Kenya can do it. We need Kenya to be an hub of automotive parts and machinery. We export things like IC2 to Rwanda. Maybe Rwanda can be an IC assembly and services. DRC Congo can be a battery mining refining center. Ghana can be a cocoa processing country. Ethiopia can be a textile and leather. Nigeria can be a petrochemical. And then we export these products, the products across our continent. It is possible. But why is it not working? This is because Africa leadership is the problem. As I said, the first things on governance, anti-corruption is the problems killing Africa. Another pillar, the third pillar, is on TVET, skills and human development. The people power, building Africa's skill workforce for industrialization. Look at World War I and World War II. China was not close even to be called a first world country. But they realized their challenge. They developed skills initiative, empowerment center. Every Chinese was empowered to understand how to make something. They developed energy sector, manufacturing centers. And if you look at even today, this is what they are managing to export to other countries. Why don't we equip all TVET with the latest industrial machines? If it is CNC, if it is PLC, if it is robotics, even if it is EV labs, not just equipping them, but ensure that they use it for the economic revenue. Why don't we create a large-scale dual apprenticeship programs with industries? I know it's happening. There's dual training happening with the through GIZ. Maybe their conduct may be elapsing, but is it worth it? Is it worth it? Why don't we create competency-based education that is happening in Africa, across Africa? Yet Kenya is taking the shape in terms of CBET. We are now taking CBET training in Kenya. But why don't we do it across all African? Because we need each other. When they are doing their production or whatever, they need to sell to other continents. We can bring in skills innovations or skills competition across Africa to develop excellence in terms of the skills and raise the profile for these youth. Why don't we create what we call industry-led curriculum? We're not just teaching for the industry, for the market. We don't, in terms of entrepreneurship, it's called push. Let's not push product to the market. Let's look at the market, what the market wants, and collaborate with the market. Let the industry give us their curriculum they want. Then refine with what's supposed to be there. When we teach, we blend in CBET, we blend in dual training programs for apprenticeship programs, so that we develop, we give out output that is ready for the market, just like what Chinese are doing, the Asian countries are doing. And this way, we'll be able to develop Africa. And the fourth pillar is on transportation and modern transport. Let's just say transportation modernization or transport modernization. Connectivity and logistics being efficient to move people and goods from one place to another place. We need transport systems. We need to create SGR connecting all major cities, which will help us to transport goods, heavy goods. We need to create fast rapid systems across our cities, even if it is electric or electric commuters. We are able to do this one. It will help to modernize our systems. We need to modernize our ports and logistic infrastructure. We need to regionalize our highway networks, connecting neighboring countries to ensure that we are able to move across different countries without problems like European countries are doing. You can move to Spain, to Portugal, to France, Germany. In those countries without any problems, as long as you have the valid documents. This is the pillar that the country, Africa need to develop. Pillar number 4, transportation and modernization. The fifth pillar, I have 12 pillars. The fifth pillar is on energy security. Because this energy is the one developing, powering our development. We need to develop reliable, affordable energy for all. Like Africa has a lot of sunshine, intensity. Why don't we create solar systems which is eco-friendly, which is energy-friendly, which is economic-friendly, and which is reliable, affordable, to ensure that we connect all cities, all major towns, all remote areas where there's a lot of sunshine. We don't need to have hydro energy to connect those people from remote areas. We can expand our renewable energy like solar, wind, and geothermal. We can develop nuclear power for base load capacity in terms, to help us in terms of manufacturing. We can strengthen our regional power pools and interconnection using solar. We can promote an energy efficient systems and conservation, not just depending on monopoly like maybe Kenya Power or one source of energy. We need to invest in smart grid technologies. This way, we will accelerate Africa to become first world country within 15 years. These are 12 pillars which we can achieve in 15 years. Every pillar is achievable within a period of 1 year. We have money, we can do that. We have resources. Let them come and mine our resources, but let them build something we want. If there are stadiums, let them build stadiums. Housing and smart in cities. Modernizing living environments which is suitable, which is affordable for urban development. We don't need to build houses for people to do living if they are not manufacturing something. If you have money, you can stay anywhere you want. But if you don't have money, why will you stay in that house? We need to have a massive affordable housing programs, not just reliable or whatever, but affordable housing programs. After we have developed all those other pillars, not just building houses first, we need to follow the pillars. We need to develop smart cities. Like you see these developed countries, where there's a city, people live there. So we don't need to people move from the CBD to go to up countries. No. Like you have a city in thick as a city. It's a place people do their business at the same time. People live in. Maybe first floor, second floor, third floor is a business. Fifth floor going up is a residential center. If we do that one, we are creating a smart city infrastructure. We need to urbanize our region, urban centers. We need to remove these slums. Actually, I hate these slums. They are making Africa look like it's poor, but yet we have money. Who are constructing these slums? The money being paid to these people are not the people living those slums. They are rich people coming and building those slums for them to gain revenue. So we are the one making the problems. We need to create an integrated urban planning systems, greening standard for our future generations. Because looking at climate change, smart cities will help to reduce these emissions. Pillar number 6, agriculture and food security. Agriculture and food security. We are still importing rice. We are still importing maize. We are still importing sugar. Really? Feeding the continent requires agriculture and food security. From being subsistence farmers to being commercial farmers. Mechanizing agriculture, modernizing agricultural systems, farming systems, irrigation systems, agro processing systems for the value addition. We don't need to export our raw material for them to process. They bring back tea which is already processed. Why don't we process our own? We need to invest in research and development for the climate resilient crops. We need to develop food storage systems that is good enough to hold our capacity and even to distribute the capacity we have. If we are producing a lot of potatoes, why don't we process potato to a form that it cannot decay fast? Then when we store it, we can use it across all the seasons. This is the problem we are facing as Africans. Not because we are willing, but because we want it to be. Pillar number 8 is on health systems. These are my pillars. For a healthy population, quality health care is needed for all Africans. We need to develop a universal health coverage systems. Not just developing to say it is there, but working systems. We implement it well. Local pharmaceutical manufacturing, not depending on importation. Medical research and development. We are graduating a lot of medical engineers, medical practitioners, healthcare systems. This is what Africa needs. Pillar number 9 is on technology and innovation. Digitalization requires transformation. If we are leapfrogging to whatever was there, we will still leapfrog and leave behind advanced technologies. We need to leapfrog. We need to advance to. We need to change to advanced technologies that will establish African as innovation fund. We need to develop an African innovation fund. We need to build technology parks in every capital city. We need to create research institutes that focus on African challenges. We need to develop continental digital infrastructure systems. We need to promote African digital continent and platforms and establish intellectual property protection systems. Yes, it may be there, but it is not well implemented. Pillar number 10, financial investment. Funding transformation, like if now you are using mobile way of transaction, but it is not worth it. People have a lot of loan apps in their phones. You have Lisa, Tala, G, whatever, House Fund. If you are giving people a loan, but these people are not working, where are they getting money? No, something's wrong. We need to create a Pan-African stock exchange and establish African Development Bank, fund that will be revolving across all major developments that are connecting major African countries. Every African country can now chip in that Africa Development Fund for the main aim of developing African network, road network, infrastructure network. We need to even launch what you call diaspora bonds. We need to develop what you call Islamic infrastructure, finance infrastructure. We need to create venture capital funds for the startups. We need to strengthen regional development banks. Not just to take our interest, but to ensure that it is used for the benefit of the nation, for the benefit of the people. And this priority will ensure that the renewable energy manufacturing technology, accurate processing, and infrastructure is key mandate for these pillars. When we look at the pillar number 11, before we go to the last pillar, pillar number 11 is on environmental sustainability, green development, balancing growth with environmental protection by implementing Continental Climate Action Plan, establishing Africa Carbon Credit Exchange, promoting 30% of land and oceans by 2030, developing circular economic models, promoting green urbanization, and investing in climate resilient infrastructure. This way, we are able to attain environmental sustainability. The last pillar is on transformation agenda. To summarize these pillars, the 12 pillars of African development. So pillar number 12, before we summarize, the last pillar is on culture and mindset. We don't need to build churches everywhere. We don't need to build mosques everywhere. We don't need to build a temple everywhere. We don't need to say we are so prayerful. I cannot measure the extent of you being prayerful. It's only spiritual aspect that God can know if you are prayerful or not, because your attitude, your action, and whatever you are doing will be seen by people. If you build a church, but still that church is transforming the society, you have a school there, you have a college there, you have a hospital there, this is the right mindset we want. But you are not building a church to gain money. We need to implement value based education curriculum, even through the church. We need to launch products made in Africa branding campaign. Establish African Exchange Awards so that it can boost the morale and motivate people to be innovative. We need to promote Pan-African identity and unity. When you are moving to Tanzania, I'm African, not a Tanzania or a Kenya. We need to develop ethical leadership programs and celebrate African heritage and innovation. These are the mindset transformation goals that will shift from consumption to production, will shift Africa from dependency to self-reliance, will shift Africa from short-term to long-term thinking, will shift Africa from division to unity. This is the key pillars Africa requires. To summarize the pillars Africa needs. To summarize these pillars, as I said, the pillar number 5 first we need to do is what we call governance and corruption. These are the first pillar we need to develop as African. Second pillar is on industrialization, manufacturing, value addition, industrial parks. We need this pillar. Third pillar is on TVET and skills, apprenticeship programs, competency-based training. Transportation systems as a fourth pillar on BRT, SGR, port modernization. Fifth pillar is on energy security, renewables, nuclear, regional power. The sixth pillar is on housing and smart cities. 7 is on agriculture. Number 8 is on health systems. Number 9 is on technology innovation. 10 is on finance and investment. 11 is on environmental sustainability. And 12 is culture and mindset. Transformation of Africa requires a holistic approach, addressing the governance, economic structure, human capital, and mindset simultaneously. If we are able to address the governance, economic structure, human capital, and mindset, we are able to achieve what is needed for Africa. This is a 30-year plan or vision that Africa requires. We can strategize to achieve within 15 years, Africa will be placed at the best place ever. Within 5 years, phase 1 5 years, phase 2 5 years, and phase 3 5 years, we are able to achieve this. Don't come to people say, I want another 5 years to help you to achieve what we wanted to help. No, when you are in office, you are in power, you have money, do what is necessary within that period and make Africa proud, so that people can see the value in you to change their mindset, and they can believe and indeed through your leadership you are able to achieve it. A first world Africa means countries with sustained high living standards, advanced industry, reliable infrastructure, and strong institutions, measured by the GDP, manufacturing, youth unemployment reduced, universal electricity and broadband access, corruption metrics substantially improved. So these are what Africa requires. So that we will look at the performance metrics, key performance metrics that will help to understand that Africa is growing. As I said, manufacturing share of the GDP will grow. If it grows between 25 to 40%, then Africa is achieving first world country or continent. If the youth unemployment is reduced below 50% or by 50%, then Africa is achieving first world continent. If electrification rate across all rural areas, urban areas, and manufacturing is 100% utilized or production, then Africa is heading towards first world continent. If 80% of the urban mobility is by BRT or SRT, Africa is achieving first world continent. If 70% of food importation is reduced and there is a food security reliable for all Africans, then Africa is achieving the first world continent. If there's 300% exportation of finished goods from Africa to other continents, then Africa is achieving the first world continent. If the share, Africa's share on the global perspective, like the patents, what we are patenting globally is increasing by 500%, then Africa is gaining the first world continent. The top tie is the ranking improvement. We can look at the ultimate goal. If 200 million new middle class households across Africa by 2055 are able to achieve a unified housing model, a unified electricity, a unified manufacturing center, industrial park, food security, then Africa is achieving the first world country. What are the risks and the mitigation? The risks and mitigation, yes, the key risks that will undermine our agenda is corruption, tribalism, political division, debt pressure from investments, weak institutional systems, skills mismatch, political instability, and climate change. But if we strategize well, putting in these strategies, our mitigation strategies, radical digital transparency in all government operations, merit-based appointments and inclusive governance, blended finance instead of excessive debt, stronger TVET and university with industry alignments, regional integration and peace-building mechanisms, climate-resilient infrastructure and agriculture, first implementation with quick wins on the key performance indicators, then Africa will be achieving their first world goal. The greatest risk is not attempting transformation, but in maintaining the status quo that keeps Africa poor despite its wealth. This is the quote I'm leaving you today. The greatest risk is not in attempting transformation, but in maintaining the status quo that keeps Africa poor despite of its wealth. What is our call? What is our call? Me and you. What role will we play? Transformation of Africa requires everyone. It requires me and you to be part of the game. Whether you are a leader, whether you are a policymaker, whether you are an educator, whether you are a mentor, whether you are a student, you are youth, maybe you are faith communities, churches, whatever, whether you are business or you are industry, we require practical steps that we need to take to change our continent. Number one, mentor our young people in the practical skills. Like what I'm doing in Dell Creams Technologies. We train youth on CNC machining. You need to support local African business and products. Yes, it may not meet your standard, but what is your end game? What is your play? What is your role? Could you suggest the best way possible? We need to advocate for policy reforms in our community that is there for transformation, not to make us captive. We need to invest in African innovation, not just building starships to go to the moon. We have not reached that level. We need to start somewhere. Don't think of going to the moon, going to the space as per now. Let's think of the startup innovation that will help the African fast. There's somebody who has never seen a plane. Somebody who in his lifetime has never seen a plane, has never seen a train, has never seen a car. But we want to go to the moon. We cannot. Let us promote ethical leadership, in the sphere of our influence. Transformation of Africa will not come from outside. As I said, I was explaining this reason why there was scramble for Africa. If you look at this, why there was scramble of Africa, you really understand the economic motive, political motive, strategic motivation on the military basis, the Berlin Conference to demarcate Africa based on their military presence, and their religion to bring in to spread Christianity as their ideology. You will come to realize that Africa, we are very rich, but because we were made to be like that. This is what you and me need to put in. As I said, transformation of Africa will not come from outside. It will come from within. From leaders with a vision. From citizens with the right determination. We are the one electing these leaders. A collective commitment that will build Africa we deserve. Don't elect somebody because he's your neighbor. Don't elect somebody because he's your friend. Don't elect somebody because he's your father. Don't elect somebody because he's your tribe. Elect somebody that you know you will trust that person to change the generation to come. That is what I want us to have. What are these interactions? Which pillar can be our first priority? Is it governance? Is it industrialization? Or is it Tibet? Mine, I will vote as governance. Last, can you ask yourself a simple question? Is African truly independent? Is African truly independent? On our podcast, pillars that Africans, is African independent? Ask yourself, is African independent? Last question, what is your origin? Maybe you are living in European countries, you are living in Asian countries, you are living in American continent. What is your origin? Does your origin help you? Is there any change to your origin? What will you help the society you came from? They say charity begins at home. Let's unite in the common goal of changing Africa. Not Africa's per se, the continent. Not your only community, your own parent mother, or say your own community, but community at large. Because transformation of Africa will not come from outside. Nobody will give you grants. Let me be clear. Don't say that we are given grants from the European countries. We are given loans. Nobody will ever give you things for free. If they are giving us grants, bear in mind, in their secret meeting where they meet, they have signed contracts to take something from our continent. I'm not saying they are bad. It's our leadership who are bad. It's our leaders who are bad. Thank you for watching. This is our podcast on why Africa is poor. Our next episode, we will look at now what is our role as Africa. Is there any hope for Africa? Thank you and have a lovely day.